Hello, beautiful soul, and thank you again for joining me. I hope you've all been enjoying the past few episodes, and please do make sure you follow and give a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast from. In today's ep, I'm so excited because we are talking all things sexual health. Today's guest is another close friend of mine. She is a relationships and sexual health educator. It is the gorgeous Sophie Dessauer. Hello, Sophie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Connor. How are you?
I'm good. Love to see your face on the screen. I haven't seen you for a long time.
I know, a really long time. But a birthday party a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago.
Actually, it might have been. Yeah, I actually think it might have been sooner than I think it was. Actually.
Yeah, we were sat next to each other eating sushi, just like, how have you been in the past 5 years?
And I was just talking about how to be a presenter, and it all like changed. Remember, that was actually the conversation I had with you.
Oh yeah,
And how my
amazing.
life's changed. It's so nice to see, and I'm so grateful that you're doing this today, because obviously this is a little bit of a different episode, but it's something I really wanted to do because it's so important, and I'm very much an advocate for safe sexual practices and good, honest relationships. And you are the master, the mentor of the job, basically, aren't you?
Well, yeah. Let's just preface with, if I get things wrong in this episode, don't come for me.
No, it's all good.
We're all learning. But yeah,
Sorry.
I guess I know more than I did 5 years ago. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to think I'm becoming a little bit of an expert in sexual health, but I'm not quite there yet. So if I do slip up or get things wrong, then I will let you know that I've done that con, and then I'll just send you a little bit like, I got this statistic messed up, put this in the whatever.
You're all good. I can edit. You're all good. You're all safe in here. Don't worry. I'm not going to throw you out to dry. Well, that actually leads on to a really good question, actually. So you said you've learned a lot in the past 5 years. How did you fall into it? Because I know this wasn't initially your first chosen career, really, was it?
No. No. So I mean, yeah, we met because I was doing acting and I wanted to be a performer, and I went to drama school.
We played On Stage Lovers.
We did. You were my
actually
favourite
did.
on stage lover of all time.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to do that ever since I was little. That's all I wanted to do. Went to drama school. Went into acting after drama school, but whole boring list of reasons, I decided to go for something else. And actually, it all sort of started just before the pandemic, and I had some gynecological health issues that ended up in me having abnormal cells removed from my cervix. And during that whole process, which was quite scary and a little bit intimidating, I just realised I knew absolutely nothing about my body, particularly like my reproductive organs. And I was like, why is it? Why do I know nothing? Why have I been told like none of the correct words for even, like, I was calling my vulva my vagina, and I was 24, and I just thought, that's not cool. So it just took me down a little bit of a path to what I do now, which is I'm a relationships and sex educator. I work full time doing that in schools, in colleges, youth groups, wherever they need me, wherever they want me. I'll be there doing that, and I absolutely love it. So it wasn't my call. Well, no, wait, it was my calling in life.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily what I started out doing, but I'm so glad that I am here now, because yeah, I absolutely love it.
And you know what, that's actually really funny, because that is kind of what this podcast is about. It's like, obviously I've got a little quote at the end of the episodes, which always are, life can be messy, so embrace the messy, learn from it, and keep rising, which is literally what you did. You like took a situation and went, whoa, this is what I need to learn from this, and you've blossomed, babe. We love it.
Thanks, babe. Yeah, when you asked me, I was like, yeah, I kind of am a little bit of a hot mess, like, especially as I've just moved back in with my parents, like, I am a hot mess. But I'm doing something that I like doing, and I think everybody deserves to have that at some point in their lives, you know, do something that you really care about and are passionate about,
definitely,
and not do the things that are making you feel crap all the time.
Exactly. And also it's giving back to community in a way, because I think so many people, like you said, you have no idea about your body or like the terms of your different like reproductive organs. That is so many people. Even probably you said in your early 20s, I reckon people like in their 40s, 50s that still have no concept about really what's going on underneath this skeleton.
I know, but that's
it's
and that seems like, but that's not those people's fault. The
Yeah, no, yeah.
problem is that people are never taught that stuff, never educated at school about it, because, and I'm guessing this is, you know, why we're doing this today, and what we've spoken about already previously is like there's still lots of stigma and taboo and hush hush around all things sex, and that includes like our body parts, because you know, our genitals, they are things that people just don't talk about openly. And I did start writing a blog about my vagina,
You
which
did, which was so good. You need to keep it up.
which looking back now, I actually read it a couple of days ago and I was like, oh god, it's a bit cringe. But
Not at all.
but I'm really glad I did it, because actually what happened then is, like you said, loads of people that I hadn't spoken to in ages, or friends of friends, started contacting me, messaging me, just being like, I'm really glad you said that, because I've had this, or I'm going through this, or I've experienced this. And even like some of my best friends who we talk to each other about everything, but at the time we weren't talking to each other about our bits, because that wasn't
Yes.
normal. And now all
Yeah.
we do is talk about our bits. So
Love that. Healthy conversation. But it's
yeah.
actually, it's really hard to drop it into conversation, I think, a lot of the time. People are
Yeah.
like, what do I do? What do I say? How much do I? And that's why
Yeah.
it's important to have these conversations.
Mhm.
So let's just jump in the deep end. What is probably the most crazy thing that's surprised you when it comes to like your job role that you've learned?
I would say like,
It's probably quite a few, to be fair.
yeah, there are quite a few. I would say actually, in the reverse of that, like nothing in a way has surprised me, because it's just like how you think it is, in terms of talking to people about relationships and sex, whether you're talking to young people or adults, because I do professionals training as well. So I talk to teachers a lot about how to teach relationships and sex education. There is still that like feeling of, we shouldn't be talking about this. This is a really strange thing to be talking about at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning sort of vibe.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, I would say like the majority of the time it is still about trying to make that conversation feel a little bit easier for people to access, and for people to feel a bit more comfortable and safe. And I'm not here to say that everybody should be having these conversations and that everybody should be open, as honest as me, because some people just won't feel comfortable. Some
Yeah.
people, that's a really private thing. Some people, that's for them to talk about and have discussions with, you know, somebody that they end up marrying one day, or someone they want to start a family with. And that is absolutely fine. I think for me, the most important thing though is that people just have access to the information and the education, and then they can choose to use it if they want to, or when they need to. I think one of the things that has surprised me recently, I guess, some of the attitudes we're seeing now to relationships and sex education being delivered in schools. So it's mandatory now to deliver it in schools. So when me and you were at school, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it is. So that was
Okay.
made mandatory as of, well, 2020. That's when people started to need to implement it.
That's so
But
late.
that's so late.
Oh
So
my
there's
gosh, yeah.
yeah, and pandemic wise, we're even later. So, you know, 2 years of people's lives were sort of, you know, put on hold. And that was the same for teachers. You know, they did the best they could in the circumstance. They couldn't also deliver a whole new curriculum. And so we're still catching up with ourselves. Yeah, it's just sort of, I've just been surprised by sort of some of the lack of awareness, maybe around, or lack of sensitivity, actually, not lack of awareness, lack of sensitivity around LGBTQ plus topics, and having those discussions with professionals, not young people. That's what surprised me. That was a
Right.
really roundabout way of saying that. I'm so sorry.
No, I get what you mean. And out of curiosity, because obviously when I was at school, I actually went to Catholic school, so it was even a bit weirder. I think the only time I ever had like a sexual health or any conversation around was actually just to do with biology, which was like just the reproductive system. But I also do recognise the fact that it probably was a very much a heteronormative lens. Is that still the case now in terms of the curriculum, or is it expanding?
So the curriculum is all based on guidance, government guidance. Government guidance is constantly being reviewed. It's currently up for review at the moment, but it can leave things quite vague for people to decide how to deliver the education. However, the guidance does say that the education has to be and needs to be delivered in an inclusive way, inclusive of gender identity, sexuality, faith, religion, culture. It needs to include everybody in the conversation. And so I would say, and this is just from my own experience and the people that I work with, all of our education is always inclusive. We are really trying to steer away from sex is just a penis in a vagina and it's just how people make babies. Sex is unique to each individual and their partner, or however many partners they have. And sex means whatever it means to that person. It doesn't just involve a penis and a vagina. It could involve a vulva and a vulva, or a penis and an anus, or a penis and a penis. And also steering away from certain types of sex are only for certain groups of people. People, no matter who they are, their gender, their sexuality, they can engage in any type of sex that they consent to and they feel comfortable to.
And then, so in terms of like the trans community, then, because we spoke about this in our pre-chat, how protected or how considered are they within that conversation?
Again, I would like to say, from my experience, what I've witnessed with who I work with and the people I work with and colleagues, really included in the conversation. There's a lot at stake. The trans community are still at risk. They are still a vulnerable group of people that are targeted by not very nice people. And there are still many trans young people who do not feel safe or aren't safe, particularly in school. So I guess for me, as an RSE educator, I think RSE is one of the ways that we can tackle that. Just like we can tackle things like misogyny and sexism, RSE is a place to tackle those sort of stigmas and stereotypes that can be really harmful for the trans community. And that is just simply by opening up conversations and everybody being respectful and listening to each other and being inclusive of the way we talk about sex and relationships and gender identity, and also giving young people different scenarios, like different, so we use gender neutral names, we use gender neutral terms in all of our education. So we really steer away from, using things like only girls have vaginas or only boys have penises.
That is actually pretty cool, actually, pretty impressive. Because I didn't go to school that long ago. Maybe I did. Not in my head.
We did. We did.
Oh, okay. No, I'm still like young and free. But it is actually really quite encouraging to hear. And I guess, is that the same from government level as well, or is that still an issue that it's just a bit orcs at the moment?
A bit orcs.
That's the only way I can really describe it.
It's in the guidance to talk about those issues and to be inclusive. I guess what the guidance doesn't necessarily say is always how to do that. It leaves quite a lot of room for schools or educational settings to make up their own policy or make up their own resources of how they're going to deliver that education, which with all the other stuff that schools and teachers have to do, that's quite a massive ask, and that may not be a teacher's specialist subject. So although it's about encouraging people to try and be super inclusive with their language and to open up those conversations if it's safe to do so, also they are people who potentially haven't actually had any training on how to do that. Because I always say to teachers when I'm talking to them about the fact that they've got to deliver a contraception session to year 9s, I say, I feel for you, because I would not want to deliver a maths or geography lesson tomorrow because I would not be able to. It would be the worst lesson in the history of the world. So, it's a really, really big ask on top of all the things they have to do, but one that I think will be achievable. And we just need a bit more consistency, and maybe, and the teachers and schools and things like that, if they don't have someone like me going in, they need some training, they need, they need some support, and they need some more guidance, because topics like that, conversations do come up. Lots of conversations at the moment happening in schools around misogyny and Andrew Tate, and those are really hard, difficult subjects to deal with for me. So let alone someone who's gone in to teach maths all day then has to sort of open up those conversations. Can be tricky.
That's actually true. I never really thought of it from a teacher's perspective, if I'm honest. So it must be a real challenge. And that's really why it's amazing that with the job you do, because obviously you give that support not only just to the students or anyone else that you work with, but also the teachers. So I know from my personal experience, right, when it comes to like sexual health or anything like that, anything fun, I have really bad anxiety surrounding it, if I'm honest. And I also I think subconsciously that stemmed from stigmas in the past that have sort of come up. Is that very common for a lot of people?
Yeah, I would say that we are, as humans, we are I think no, wait, I can't generalize. Me myself don't like going to the doctors. I mean, who really
Yeah.
does like going to the doctors? Nobody. Because you're going because you think you've got something wrong, you
So,
need some help.
yeah.
But we are always encouraged to do that. From when we're little, we are encouraged to go and seek help, go to the doctors, go and get a checkup, go to the dentist, get your 6 monthly checkup. We are never told to go and get an STI test or go and get your sexual health checkup. People don't speak about those sorts of things, again, because we didn't talk about them at school. And I think so, yeah, I think having a nervousness or anxiety about it is completely normal, because for us, it feels like a bit of an alien place, or it feels like a bit
Yeah.
of alien territory, because it's not something we do all of our lives. Once we're sexually active, whatever age that may be, that's when we start entering that world, and it can feel really overwhelming. And like I feel out of my depth. But what do you think it is that makes you feel anxious? Is it anxiety about, and if I'm being too personal,
No, go
just
for it. I'll open up.
is it an anxiety about having an STI? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
makes
don't.
you anxious?
Yeah, I don't really know why. Do you know what, if I'm honest with you, the biggest thing for me is the fear of which on one level, is ridiculous because I understand. So let me explain why it's really hard to explain this, but HIV is probably the biggest one for me, right? I think that's a lot. That's probably felt quite a lot throughout the gay community. However, on the opposite side of that, I hate the stigma surrounding HIV. So I'm very much in support of people who HIV positive. It's not a life sentence anymore. Actually, I fully support the fact that actually you're safer to have a relationship with someone who is HIV positive but has had the right medication. Their viral load is basically gone. They can't spread that onto you, whereas opposed to going to a random person freedom and just having a great old time, you have no idea. So the toxicity within the gay, which predominantly cisgendered gay male community about that, is not something I fully support. So on that hand, I understand that, but there's also this subconscious thing of like I'm so, and in the respects of like, I think what has happened is that for me, sexuality, I've only really sort of discovered it quite later in life. I've found it really hard to be quite intimate with people until very later on in my life. And I think that's always been one of the reasons why, is that I'm always cautious of, and it's silly because I also know that's not really a big thing to worry about, but it is at the same time. If that makes sense. Does that
No,
make any sense there?
absolutely, it made loads of sense. And I think, firstly, like, validating everything you've said, because when I speak to young people, I often, well, I don't know their name. I just know basically how old they are. I don't know their sexuality. I don't presume their gender. So I literally know nothing about them. And the one STI that they are all worried about, and they are, these are kids who are 14, 15. So they were born in the 2000s.
Wow. Yeah. Hello.
They are all worried about HIV. And so, they want to know more about it, or they call it AIDS, because again, that stigma and that perception of what AIDS and HIV is just continues to trickle down society unless people talk about it. And there are amazing people that do talk about their HIV diagnosis. There are great people who talk about PEP and PrEP openly, and there are charities that also do the same thing, who are fighting that stigma daily. People like Terence Higgins Trust and Stonewall. So yeah, I think that it makes complete sense why you feel that way. And also, you got to remember, Con, that we went to school where literally none of this was available. Still not a safe place for the LGBTQ plus community. We have a long way to go still. So all of that makes complete sense as to, I think, why you feel that way.
Yeah, and I also think as well, because I actually need to take into account that I was still of the generation that was in school at some point when Section 28 was still in place.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the early 2000s like they got rid of that.
Yeah.
So there was, probably subconsciously, there was a lot of propaganda in the 80s and late 90s and of HIV and AIDS particularly. So it probably makes sense. That's why it's a big fearful factor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, appreciate. Yeah, and obviously now with PrEP and things like that, I guess it completely changes the whole narrative.
Yeah, I
Of
think
it all.
I think with STIs and sexual health in general, and going to sexual health clinics and getting an STI test, the way I approach it with whoever I work with, whether it's young people or adults, is just to make it positive, just to make it's not scary. So, for example, you hear loads of horror stories, or people always ask me things like, do they still show pictures of like genitals that have got an STI, or do they still show images of STIs and things like that? And I say, absolutely not, because all that's doing is just scaring people and fear-mongering them. A lot of that is all sort of like preventative, because of we don't want people to get STIs, don't get an STI. Whereas actually the way I like to approach it is, well, here's what happens if we do get an STI, because accidents do happen, because people sometimes don't use condoms, because sometimes condoms tear, because condoms also don't cover the whole genital area. It's not disgusting, it's not dirty, it's an infection that can be treated. And I just try to make it seem a little less gross, because it's not.
And the thing is as well, like the reality of it is everything is kind of treatable. Basically, there's nothing like there isn't really anything that I know of. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that you ain't gonna be able to bounce back from or not have a normal life from. Do you know what I mean? And
all STIs are treatable, and some of them are also curable. So things like chlamydia and gonorrhea, they are treated with a course of antibiotics. Just like if you had conjunctivitis or an ear infection, you get given antibiotics. It's the same for chlamydia and gonorrhea. What I would say is some STIs, if they are left untreated, they can cause health effects. And that's why it's just really important that people do access testing, and they can go to a clinic, or they can order one online and do it themselves at home. But that's the only way to know for sure if you've got one, because again, lots of people think that they would know if they had one, like they'd have all these symptoms. And actually the most common symptom of an STI is no symptom at all. The only way to know is to get that test done. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There's so regular testing, guys, regular and girls testing. And theys and everyone out there.
Everybody regular testing.
Everyone get tested. And that obviously is very easy to do, right? Clearly, just go NHS, bish bash bosh.
Yeah, you can search for your nearest sexual health clinic on the NHS website, and you can also order a test kit online, SH24. You get a little discreet packet that comes to your door, and it has all the things that you need and a leaflet of how to use them. And if you're not sure, or you feel like you're doing something wrong, you can call a sexual health advisor and they will talk you through it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's much more accessible now. Like you can get condoms to your door. If you're under 25, there might be a service in your area where you can get condoms posted to your door. Again, doesn't come in a big box. It says condoms all over it. It's a great package. Nobody needs to know your biz. And C cards, you get a little card if you're under 25, and you can go to.
I used to borrow those as I was younger.
Yeah, just go in, pass it over. They just give you a little packet of your condoms.
They just give you the JLS ones. This won't die. Remember the JLS ones back in the day?
Oh. No, what?
Do you remember
each member of JLS on it?
Yeah, it was. Do you remember that? It was like our generation JLS condoms. Swear.
What? I love JLS. I feel like I loved them before I was sexually active.
I swear to you, they did the whole thing. Google it. Like I got a C card. I don't know why, because actually I wasn't sexually active, but I was going there with a friend. I think they were getting sorted, and I thought, well, let's go for it. Banter, get your C card, and have just in case, always be safe. But no, I went and got my C card, and they gave me a whole pack of JLS condoms. I was like, pop culture boy. I was obsessed. I didn't use them. They're basically just collecting dust. Because obviously, not because I was being unsafe. I generally just wasn't doing anything. So, yeah.
That's the thing. If people want to get condoms, even if they're not sexually active, but they want to practice using them, again, I mean, loads of people always say to me, do you still put condoms on a banana? And I was like, mate, I was never even lucky enough to have that demo. I was never shown. I've
never seen this.
Never shown how to put one on any piece of fruit or anything. Now we get condom demonstrators. They're like a demonstrator, looks like a penis or a sex toy. And we show people how to use one because
production budget. Love it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I would say, but you could practice on anything. You could practice on a banana. You could practice on a sex toy. What else could you practice on? A cucumber? Anything.
Yeah. trying to think what else. My brain can't think of any
I
phallic
can't
things
think of
right
any
now.
other. I can't even think of any other shape. I mean, but to be fair, I'll tell you a good fact. This is something
Right.
I like show people who don't believe me.
Hmm.
So you get loads of different sizes of condoms, loads of different flavors, loads of different types.
Yeah.
King size condom can fit 6 oranges in it. Yeah. So I'm always like, if people ever say that, there isn't a condom that's going to fit them as their excuse not to wear a condom, then you can tell them, well, how come I can fit 6 oranges in a king size condom? There you go.
I really want to know who's getting a king size condom now. That is
Yeah.
what?
Get yourself
6
some
oranges?
babes. Get yourself some oranges.
That's a
It's
water
a,
balloon. That's not even. That's
yeah.
huge.
But people can fit them over their arms, their heads, their legs. They're stretchy.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wowza. Is there any like difference in terms of like brand quality? Like if you get like a, is
I
that a
mean,
thing? Is that not true?
right. The things that you want to look out for are the CE and the BSI kite mark. If they have those, like you get on food, packages of
Yeah.
food, if they've got those stamps on them, then it's a good condom. If
Okay.
they don't have those on them, don't use them. It's not recommended to use them because they've been
Okay.
approved to be sold here in the UK. And you also just want to check like the date of a condom because condoms do go out of date. And if they go out of date, what happens is the latex starts to break down and it will rip easier or it won't be as
Right.
effective. So they've got long shelf lives, but they do go out of date. So it's always best to just leaf through your stock and make sure they're
Yeah.
up to date.
So those JLS ones, no, not worth using now.
Yeah, so don't use those JLS ones, babe.
No, it's all right. They've had like about 4 reunion tours since then, so it's all good. It's all good. Let's talk about contraception for a second. It's actually what we'll talk about. How, in your personal opinion or professional opinion, how off balance is it? Do you reckon? I just don't really get why men don't basically get on with it and do something else extra.
Okay, so
That makes sense.
let's go with professionally first and then personally.
Okay.
So, yeah, contraceptive methods. Contraception, the word contraception refers to the method in which to prevent pregnancy. So,
Yeah.
if somebody is having penis in vagina sex, then there is a likelihood that the person who has a vagina could get pregnant if they're not using a contraceptive method and they don't want to get pregnant. So, condoms can be external condoms. So, person who has a penis can wear an external condom. Person who has a vagina could use an internal condom, so one that goes in the vagina, but you couldn't use both at the same time.
Okay.
And
Obviously.
then
I was like, oh, actually no, yeah. So
no, because they would just rub against each other, and then they'd probably wouldn't be very comfortable.
Yeah.
And it would cause like a hole or a tear because it would be like friction. And then all of the other contraceptive methods are for people that can get pregnant biologically. How do I feel about that? I mean, of course, personally, as somebody with a womb who has been on contraceptive methods before, like hormonal ones, like the pill or the coil, that feels unfair.
Yeah, agree.
It does feel unfair. That's not to say that something won't happen at some point in the future. You see a lot of stuff and reports and studies. They were trialing out a contraceptive pill that people with penises could take, but the studies and the people who were taking part in that research were saying that it was causing side effects. And that throws up a lot of conversation because hormonal contraceptives that people who can carry a baby do experience side effects, some more than others, some more severely than others. So it's an interesting topic. It's one that is being explored and they are trialing out things. I would like to say that there will be more options for people with penises in the future, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Obviously, I think it's wholly unfair. Obviously, I identify as a gay male, cisgendered male. The risk of me reproducing a baby, reality of it is very, very small. So I don't think I've had to have a massive think about that because that's tends to what conceptions. The conception obviously has been designed for that purpose, but I do think realistically in medical like profession, most hormone therapy or things that affect your hormones is taken a lot more with a lot more seriousness generally. So if you took a tablet for something else, I can't think of anything, but like it wasn't to do with that reason, but it was going to affect your hormones. There's a lot of caution around it. I think nowadays we've got to a point in time where basically it's like, yeah, just take contraception, just take contraception. And I think it's even happening even like younger and younger and younger. Not even just for contraceptive purposes, but if you have if you suffer with really bad, frequent, heavy periods, take a contraception pill.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know whether that's A, healthy in the long term, or B, really fair.
Mm-hmm. I think the main thing is, like you said, contraception, no matter who is using that, whoever those people are involved, because condoms are a type of contraception, they also protect against STIs. So if people are having sex, whoever they're having sex with, they need to be having that conversation, and it's both people's responsibility. And I think that's where the issue actually lies, isn't it? That it feels like the person who can carry the baby's responsibility, or the person with the vagina's responsibility, and actually it's about everybody having a say, having that conversation, communicating with your partner. And yeah, and again, with contraception, I understand people's fears and concerns around how it affects your body and your hormones and side effects and things like that. I think the most important thing is to always speak to a medical professional about those concerns or worries. And if you're not happy with the answer, or you don't feel like you just don't feel heard or listened to keep going back until you are.
Yeah, because also the thing is, I guess there's all different types. I always just think in my head, I was always like just the pill, but there's the pill, coil, depot.
15 different types.
Really? Wow. I literally think
so
that's just me probably being ignorant because I don't have to deal.
No, but it's not ignorance at all, because I didn't know there was 15 until I started doing what I do. But there are so many different types, and if one doesn't work for one person, they maybe should try another one. And what I always say to young people is, like, the pill may work for your best friend, but it may not like you because you are taller than them, you weigh less than them, all of those different factors. Whatever it is, it's just about trying to find the right one for you if that's something you want to do.
Yeah, makes total sense. Hopefully things will progress, and hopefully there'll be a little bit more, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd love to see
me too. So I thought, obviously, sexual health and all that stuff is quite a big topic, broad topic. We could go and talk about it for hours and hours and hours, basically, couldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, let's just do a little game of Is It's True? These are random things I found on the internet, or I've looked at, or I've heard, and just want to see if it's like any validity in them. Because some things can be like crazy. Right, okay. Ready for the first one? HIV is now more prevalent in the heterosexual community due to lack of education surrounding HIV.
Yeah, so HIV, there is truth in that. HIV transmissions are higher in heterosexual couples.
Wowza. And why do you reckon that might be?
I think there's a variety of reasons, but I think potentially one of them, and again, don't quote me, but potentially one of them is that, and I have seen this, lots of people still think that if they are having penis in vagina sex, that they cannot contract HIV.
Right.
Or transmit HIV. I shouldn't use contract. I don't like using that word. But they can't transmit or get HIV if they're having penis in vagina sex, which is not true. HIV is an STI. Yeah, it can be passed on through vaginal sex as well.
And this is probably what we said about the stigma thing before, like conversations, and why it's so important now, education particularly. Obviously, like we said, there's a whole era of time, especially in the 80s and the early 90s, where people generally believed it was just only, it was called the gay disease, wasn't it, for so long? And people didn't really realise, and that's now, the knock-on effect has been that, so like maybe heterosexual people don't fully understand it.
Yeah.
Cute. Hopefully more education for everyone. Apparently, if you leave your socks on, you get a better orgasm. I asked you this before, and I just found it mad what you said.
So this came up because somebody asked us if that was true, like if you wore clothes in bed or if you wore socks, could that increase your likelihood or give you a better orgasm? And I heard a colleague say that that there probably was some truth in that, because there is the sensation of wearing socks or socks rubbing your feet, something like that, like something about sensitivity and sensation of material on your skin.
Yeah.
And particularly like a place where lots of people are quite ticklish or a bit sensitive, like their feet, it could maybe make an orgasm better. Again,
No, then
I would love to know the actual proper answer, but I feel like there may be, again, like some truth there somewhere.
it's hard, isn't it? Because I guess these sort of situations as well, like realistically, everyone's an individual.
Yeah,
So
it's dependent on the
you
person.
like you could be like, well, like also as well, like there's a lot of like latex play,
Mm-hmm.
fetish wear play. There
Yeah.
could be
Yeah, if
potentially.
if feet or wearing socks is something that, like wearing socks in bed is something that you're really into, then potentially, yeah, it would be great.
I hate wearing. I think it's weird wearing socks in bed. Just don't feel right.
I don't
Are you
wear
a sock?
socks in bed.
Okay, fine. I know there's some people like that just don't feel right to me at all. I've always been a barefoot, but then I got really cold feet, so I mean maybe I should.
But do you wear bare feet all the time? Because I don't wear socks in bed, but I wear socks always around the house. I can never walk around barefoot.
Oh, I do bare feet quite a lot. To
Do
be fair.
you? I
Yeah,
can't do
like
that.
being one with nature.
Yeah, you can feel the earth beneath your feet.
The
Yeah.
floorboards.
the squeaky floorboards. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there such thing as a super STI? Basically, what I mean by that is super bug STI that basically means cannot be treated. That's resistant to like antibiotics.
Yeah, so something like gonorrhea, for example, is
Mhm.
there are multiple strains now of gonorrhea, and some strains of gonorrhea are becoming resistant to antibiotics, which means
Wow.
it is harder to treat and harder to cure. Just like things like other viruses and bugs, they multiply if they're not under control. And that is the case for gonorrhea at the moment. So yes, it's still treatable, and if people test positive for gonorrhea, then they shouldn't be worried. They should still go back to the sexual health clinic, get
Mhm.
the antibiotics. But it's good for people to be aware that that is something that is happening, because people are still having lots and lots of sex and maybe not getting tested for STIs, so don't know that they've got it.
Get tested.
Get
Just get
tested.
tested. It's basically the moral of the story. Get tested, knowing you can do things about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that you say that the whole thing about the doctor thing as well. I feel like that's just a general medical thing across the board. We talk about lumps and bumps. People still don't get tested.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really easy, and like it's really easy for us to sit here and say just go and get tested. There are lots of barriers, like how to even get there. Some people may not drive a car, they may not have money for the bus or the train, particularly if you're in a really rural area and there's not one locally or nearby. So there are lots of reasons why people don't get tested.
Also, working hours Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
I think that must be so restrictive. I mean, I'm a bit of a freelancer, so I'm quite lucky.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I do think, gosh, if I don't have the days off in the week, I'd be messed if I couldn't go anywhere.
It's always good to look at whether your clinic does late afternoons or evening sort of sessions, because some clinics will offer that, particularly if you are under 25, just to make it a little bit more accessible for people who are maybe in school or college or university to be able to go afterwards. But that's why if you get a little at-home test kit, that can be really good, because you can do depending on who you are, you can do chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and HIV at home.
Also, fun fact: HIV. I used to do the HIV test. Hated doing them because you used to prick your finger and squeeze out the blood, which is not for me. But now, game changer. They can do it around your mouth gum.
Really?
The gum swab. I see it. That's every day. I did it the other week. So it's just top of the gum, bottom of the gum. There you go. Get your test, and you get your result back in 20 minutes.
I did not know that.
Epic. It changed so now they're actually, because that is another thing I think stresses a lot of people out getting tested is the blood element. Yeah, and it is scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and having to prick your own finger and squeeze it out, that might be really, really tricky for some people. So yeah. Wow.
Flashbacks of Little Shop of Horrors. Have anyone seen that film? With Seymour's wow, couldn't do it. Stressed me out.
But see, I didn't know that about the gum thing.
Yeah, it's it definitely is a thing because I've had it 100%. Funny, when I was in America, I noticed it first because America HIV tests are actually quite easy to buy over the counter.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if they are over here. I've not actually looked over the counter.
No.
Not are they still like sort of okay?
No, I've No, I wouldn't say you could go down to your local pharmacy and get an STI test. No.
Do you think that would be helpful though?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
obviously.
so. I think it would be, it's very, the thing is people want people to be going to the sexual health clinic because that's where they should be going to access that, which is
Right, okay.
understandable. But I remember in my GP surgery, there used to be chlamydia and gonorrhea swabs in the toilets. So you could go for your GP appointment, but then you could just go and swab yourself and send it off for
That's
testing.
clever.
I know.
Kill two birds with one stone. Love that. Efficiency.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's actually what people do need, is like the efficiency and the convenience, because
Yeah.
some it can be inconvenient for people. And if people have got kids or anything, it's like finding the time to look after themselves and do all that stuff can be really hard.
Also, I think people would probably feel a bit more which is what, obviously they don't. We still talk about discreet packaging. That you do get a discreet package.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know that or panic that they're going to get something ordered to a house and.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is stigma about going into a sexual health clinic, and you may not want people to see you going in there if if it's in the middle of the town, for example, and people, you may not want people to see you going in there because people, I guess, sort of know your business. When you're going into the doctors, it could be anything. When you're going into a sexual health clinic, well, people sort of already have a little bit of an assumption.
Why is that? Sorry, why is that? I was at my hoop yesterday. Why is that? Because I'm in my head, I think when you talk about sex in general, right? Sex is just an animalistic thing. The animal kingdom do it left, right, and centre, having a great old time. We, for some reason, and I think there's probably a really complex answer to this. So why is there such taboo topics around sex? I find it really, really bizarre, which I think then creates these problems of people going to a sexual health clinic. You don't get embarrassed taking your car to the MOT garage, so why? Same old thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
True. I always say that. I'm always like, you should get. Someone actually said this to me once. You should get an STI test. Yeah, because you should get an STI test every year. It's like you do an MOT. It's preferred that you go every 6 months. And obviously, when you change every sexual partner, you should definitely go. Or if you've got multiple partners, then you should go at least once a month. Anyway, I think there are lots of reasons why it's like hard for people to talk about, or hard for people to go to a clinic, or hard for people to open up about those things. Lots of different reasons. I think the thing is like, it's just letting people know, if they are curious about sex, that is a natural, okay feeling.
Yeah.
And so is not being curious about sex. Like if you sex isn't something that you even think about or is on your radar at the moment, or you don't want to have, that's also fine. Like all beliefs and values around relationships and sex education is valid and makes us who we are.
Great.
No matter what that is. What we shouldn't do, and this is maybe part of the problem, is we should never project that or cause other people distress or harm based on our own beliefs and our values. So, for example, if it is around relationships and sex education, what we believe, we can't then discriminate against somebody else because they believe something different, or or what they do in their relationships or in their sex lives doesn't align with what we believe.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I said that really just like casual, like that's such an easy fix. It's not an easy fix, and I'm really.
Well, basically, you're just telling people to mind their damn business and leave everyone alone. Like, do what's right for you and let other people do what they need to do. That's basically what you're saying, which I totally agree with. Mind your damn business.
Yeah, mind your biz. Like, but with sexual health clinics, I'm always just like, if you really feel worried or scared about doing it or going, take somebody with you. Take a friend with you. I take when I've been to a sexual health clinic, I've taken a friend with me, and we've made a bloody day out of it. Because
like me and my JLS condoms. That's how I got them. We had a laugh at Morrison's after.
Exactly, like take them with you. They may not be allowed in the consultation room with you, but then go out and do something nice and fun afterwards. Because it's not going to be the most pleasant, wonderful experience, but hopefully the person there will make you feel really comfortable, and they won't judge you. And they do that stuff every day. And they talk to people about it every day, and you're doing something amazing just by going. So
and I must admit, everyone that I've ever come in contact with, like sexual health nurses or doctors, like they're just amazing.
Yeah,
and what I love about them is they just genuinely want to look after your well-being. So I've been there once for like one random thing, like hepatitis B booster.
Yeah,
and the next one I've got all tests going on, but it's because they just want to help you, and I think that's a really lovely thing. It's never really awkward. There's a lot of privacy. It's not like
Yeah. Some sexual health clinics, they will put virtual things on their websites or whatever, so you can see exactly what you're going to be doing or where you're going to go before you go. Because
Oh,
like me, I hate the unknown. Like when I had
hmm.
my when I had the cells removed from my cervix, I freaked out because I just couldn't imagine what the situation was going to look like or what it was going to be like. I wish there'd
Yeah,
been like a little like, then you're going to go to this room, then you're going to lie in this chair, then do you know
yeah,
what I mean? And
sort of
that,
step by step.
yeah, that's sometimes what places will offer you. Like Brooke, if you go to a Brooke sexual health clinic, they've got videos on their website of what happens when you get to clinic, what are some of the questions you might be asked, what does
Yeah.
a swab look like, those sorts of things. Like I
I
said,
have a little question for you. I'm not trying to catch you out here, but this is like sparked. I thought, what if your other person in that
yeah,
situation is like, no, I know what you're going to say, and I hope you say what I think.
that action, cut them off. If
Chuck him in the bin.
somebody, and it's the same if somebody refuses to wear a condom, and it's
Mm,
the same if someone says, I don't need an STI test, I don't have an STI. I know I don't have sex with them. Stop having sex with them.
yeah.
And also, that's also a little bit of a sign. Are they somebody you want to be in a relationship with? They're not respecting what is really important to you, and a choice that's actually beneficial for you both, and a really safe, healthy choice to make. And saying things like, I don't want to wear a condom, I don't like condoms, those sorts of things, or yeah, I haven't had sex with that many people, so I don't have an STI. Those are all excuses. They're not based in any facts.
Mm,
So yeah, I would say that's a no go. You're not getting this.
no, exactly. Your body's a temple.
Yeah,
Know your worth.
yeah. Respect. Yeah,
Because
if
also,
someone doesn't respect your body, then
yeah, and it's
it's no.
as much as intimate, it's quite an invasive situation,
Yeah,
entering, not whatever, don't not always have to enter, but it's a
yeah,
lot going on. There's a lot
definitely,
going on.
100%, 100%.
It's important to make sure that person is on the same wavelength. Okay, right. Thank you for that.
You're
I
welcome.
love you dearly. Now I've got a segment called SOS Hot Mess. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Basically, this is just random questions or any story or any embarrassing thing that people have sent to me anonymously, so I've no idea. One thing I love is an agony aunt column, boy of the 90s, banter, and I just wanted to add it into the show because why not? Because we all need a little bit of advice from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. I am currently in my early 20s and totally lost about what I should do in life. Any advice? Which is quite fitting for you, actually, I think. Slightly.
Yeah.
As in, not no question, but like your
No,
journey is very
Con
fitting
it
with
is.
that.
Con it is.
No, it's not, babe.
We
It's
said
not.
this the other day, and I said this to one of my friends all throughout my 20s, is like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't
Mm,
know what I'm doing. I don't know who I am. So firstly, if this person was talking to me, I'd be like, babes, I feel you. I've been there. Like, there was a period of time where I just come out of a really serious long-term relationship. I was living in London by myself, working 3 or 4 different jobs, basically just crying every day because I was like a hot mess, just being like, I
hmm
don't know what I'm doing, where I'm going, if what I'm doing is right. And so what I would say to that person is, like, at that time, I was doing exactly what I needed to do. And so whoever this person is in their early 20s, whatever they're doing right now, they are doing
mm,
enough. If
yeah.
they we always feel like we could be doing more, but what you're doing is enough. You are enough. It's okay to not know right now. I might not know tomorrow what I'm doing. We all have those moments, don't we, of like,
Yeah.
am I, like, is this actually how I'm meant to be living my life?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I think it's very evolutionary life as well, and I think it's very those things you said are so true. But I think when you're in the moment, it's very hard until you've gone past the moment and looked back on it and gone, that makes sense because of X, Y, and Z happened.
Yeah.
But the truth is, just trust that there is a bigger plan, there's a bigger purpose. I'm going proper Oprah Winfrey on you because I love her. But it's true. There's a reason why you're here, right? Talking about sexual health, you're a miracle being here because how many sperm and eggs, you know? You know the
True.
statistics. It's
We're all
very
little
hard to,
miracles. We're all
yeah,
one, like however many sperm there are, or whatever it
to
is.
start acting like a
However you
miracle. And as
got
much
here
as,
in life.
exactly, so be the miracle that you are, and you don't need to have it all planned out. You know, it's like there's that Judge Judy clip around, isn't there? With if you don't make it in your 30s, you make it in your 40s. Don't make it in your 40s, make it in
Yeah.
your 50s. It's like chill. You know, there's no time frame that society's giving you that. Just make sure whatever you're doing is that you are putting yourself first and that you're happy in whatever you do.
Yeah,
That you're
absolutely. Your
finding joy.
happiness is key. And like, stop saying yes to things that you don't actually want to do.
Mm,
Stop putting pressure on yourself. Like, stop comparing yourself to other people's successes because you're on your own path.
yeah,
All the inspirational quotes, basically. But
it's
also,
true.
like,
It's
everybody has been there.
the next one, last one.
Mm-hmm.
This is quite lengthy. You're excited.
I'm excited.
Okay, just make sure I don't ruin this for you. I feel like I've been messed about. Long story short, this girl who I took out on many dates lost interest in me pretty quickly. I noticed she was colder and more distant, but I can't help but feel she kept leading me on. So I eventually asked her if the relationship was going anywhere, and she said that she doesn't want to date anyone. A week later, I got a text from my friend saying she was on Tinder. I also later learned that she was messing around with a couple of different guys during the same time. Is this okay? Question mark. There's a lot to unpack there.
Well, is this okay? That person can do what they like. I mean, it's not always okay to hurt people's feelings if people's feelings are getting hurt. But what I would say is, like, obviously that person is not okay for you. And if you are interested in a relationship, there will be somebody that is okay for you. So that
Yeah.
situation wasn't okay for you. And actually, that wasn't so, yeah, if that person was, messing you around or making you feel a certain way, then maybe it's actually for the best that that's now come to an end.
Agreed. I think as well, you've tried to fit them into your narrative of how things should work, and the reality is, like Soph said, everyone is able to make the decision of what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, and that's totally valid. No one needs to be in any relationship with anyone if they don't want to be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think maybe some honesty could have been helpful. But then that being said, you did ask them, and they gave you quite honest opinion.
Yeah.
I think, and also this is that mentality in dating world that there's like, I guess there's a broader topic of like what's a situationship and what's a relationship, and where does the parameters sort of break off.
Yeah. It's about being really clear what you do and what you don't want, I think, potentially at the beginning. Yeah. We don't always know at the beginning of a relationship what we do want. But again, like, it's just like communication, just keeping that constant communication so everybody's in the loop, being as honest as possible. That's all we can do. None of us are perfect, but we can just, we can try.
Yeah. And also she like she was on Tinder a week later. Like, she might not want to date anyone, but she might have been trying to be nice and not want to date you, which is fine. It's just not the right person for you. Okay. And you'll find the right person for you. Yeah. So move on, go on Tinder, plenty of fish, have a great old time. So that's it, we've done it.
That's it. Wow.
All right, thank you so much for telling me all that information and sharing it with everyone else. All that information and sharing it with everyone else does mean a lot. And obviously it's really important to have these conversations, just obviously not telling people, if you don't feel comfortable having these conversations, don't have them. That is why me and Sophie have done that for you today. So you can have something to listen to and be informed about. Yeah. So anything you want to add to that at all?
I don't think so. I think just like I'm going to do my little signposting. If you are ever worried or concerned about a relationship you're in, or your sexual health or anything like that, you can, of course, speak to somebody you trust that's going to help you. There will be support there. You just need to reach out and ask for it. Quickly, places to go for more information: Brooke, Terence Higgins Trust, Stonewall, Mermaids. Those are only a few I've named off the top of my head, but they all do brilliant stuff and have loads of information on their websites.
So there you go.